Hi, thank you for joining us. It's Barry Coombs from Computerworld. I'm joined today by Nick Dyer from Nimble.
Hello.
Today we're going to go through a few of the announcements that Nimble released last week, mainly around Fibre Channel support and some other bits and pieces. Just want to give us the headlines on those, Nick.
Absolutely. So Nimble Storage have actually just released 16 gig fiber channel on our new generation systems, the CS300, the 500 and the 700. We also announced support for 4 terabyte drives as well as larger SSDs of 1.6 terabytes as well. We also are allowed for further scaling mechanisms with bigger shelves and a few other things within the environment on software as well.
Fantastic. So you've traditionally been an iSCSI vendor, and most kind of new technologies that are coming out now are supporting the iSCSI technologies. Why the need to add fiber channel to your range at this kind of late stage when you're kind of starting to become a more mature vendor?
So Nimble Storage entered the marketplace back in 2010 in the mid-market. We knew that there was a real good area that we could go and attack and really gain a lot of market share very, very quickly, which was kind of the SMB mid-market, kind of just touching the large enterprise, where people were looking at not just their My First SAN, but also looking at replacing some sort of legacy system that they already have. And they've already considered Ethernet with 10 gig or 1 gig in their environment. With the push into the enterprise environments, the global 5,000 accounts and the managed service providers and the cloud providers that Nimble are really starting to get involved with, those guys are predominantly fiber channel based, not really from a technology point of view, but more a managerial point of view or a team kind of association point of view of who owns what within the data center, and mostly because it's already on site. So we're actually adding fiber channel support in our technologies in order to allow us to realize a bigger market share within storage. We believe that the fiber channel market is roughly 3 to 4 times larger than what the Ethernet market is for storage. So it can only mean good things.
Fantastic. And I suppose from that point of view, choice is the king kind of thing. At the end of the day, if you don't have to go in and have a battle as to why iSCSI may or may not be better than Fibre Channel, it just removes that barrier to your technology.
Absolutely. I mean, both myself and yourself, Barry, we've been having that conversation for many years. And sometimes people are very receptive to moving to Ethernet networks for storage. Sometimes it's never going to happen, especially in things like secure environments or environments where it's mostly media centric. You know, there's lots of different environments where fiber channel is absolutely the key. And it became for us a no-brainer. It was the thing that we had to do to really, I guess, realize the potential of our technology that we have in our systems.
Fantastic. And the common thing people say to me is Fibre Channel performs better than iSCSI. What is the truth in that?
In traditional systems, that's absolutely true, mostly because they were engineered for Fibre Channel and then they had iSCSI bridges placed on top of them. With our solutions, the benefit of our technology isn't actually from the disk. It's not actually from the subsystem. Our IP and our uniqueness is our file system. Our file system has been around for 4.5, 5 years now. And actually, it's the reason why we've been able to embed Fibre Channel in our technology without actually any performance trade-offs, but also there's no actual performance hikes. So iSCSI and Fibre Channel performance within our solutions perform pretty much exactly the same in terms of I/O, throughput, and latency. But the big win with our technology is a lot of people would claim that our solution would be a 1.0 Fibre Channel release. The great thing is because we've been able to articulate or integrate this into our common file system, it's not a 1.0 product. It's like a 2 or a 3.0 product, which is great for us.
So the release was approximately 7-8 days ago now, so it's very new to the market. But in terms of testing, what's been going on to kind of prove this technology prior to the release?
So Fibre Channel's been in development for over 2 years within Nimble Storage. We've actually had this out in customer sites for really probably around about 3 to 4 months. Half of those sites actually went into production with them, would you believe? And I can't really comment on the numbers, but we have had significant orders of those beta systems that have actually been converted into real systems for production use by customers who've actually paid for them, which allowed us to accelerate our general availability of the product set. It was supposed to come out in January next year, 2015, and we launched it in the 3rd week of November in 2014.
Fantastic. So from that point of view, it's a new technology as general availability, but it's been around for some time now inside of Nimble. We've had customers fully testing it. So it's kind of a tried and tested system at the moment, and something customers can feel confident about selecting.
Exactly. And the great thing is, as I said, because it's the same file system, not a lot has changed under the hood. So a lot of the walkthroughs that we do today are exactly the same as what it is in the iSCSI system, which makes it a lot easier for guys like ourselves.
Fantastic. So from that point of view, Nimble have been very kind to lend us a CS700 here today. It's Fibre Channel Ray, one of the first in Europe, I understand. It's all been packaged up in a nice mobile unit for us to be able to test top to bottom with the fabrics and things like that. So as you'll be able to see on screen, it's kind of a nice tidy unit. We've got the fabrics there. Tell us a little bit about the fabric units that are being used in the array.
Yeah, so within the storage array itself, we actually use Emulex HBA, 16 gig Fibre Channel HBAs in the back of our technology, so they're dual port HBAs. Depending on the model that you choose, you can have anywhere between 1 and 3 dual port HBAs per controller. In the mobile rack that we're running today, we actually then have a pair of we have a dual fabric Brocade 300 switch infrastructure, which is mostly 8 gig. And then we have some servers above it running 8 gig Fibre Channel as well, with a mix of Emulex and QLogic HBAs.
Fantastic. So we can see a variety of technologies there, and what really stood out for me when we started going through this, I was lucky enough to kind of have a one-to-one session with Rich from Nimble, who kind of showed me all the various items. And as a genuine iSCSI guy, I was surprised to see actually how easy it was to set up the the fibre fabric.
Indeed. I mean, the big thing with Fibre Channel is a lot of people are used to, and especially myself, I was a Fibre Channel guy 10 years ago. I've done Fibre Channel deployments, and it's normally a 3, 5, 7, 15, 20-day PS engagement. It's not easy, and it can be quite complex. I think what you'll see today is the deployment of a Nimble array, as I said, is exactly the same as iSCSI in that it's roughly 4 or 5 windows to complete, and you're done. So the only thing that you really need to kind of be aware of above it is the standard things around Fibre Channel zoning. And that's where the good best practices really come in, with zoning on aliases or ports rather than, kind of leaving it open and then doing things like such as LUN masking, for example.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look into the Nimble user interface. We're going to take an array from being powered on to being configured to looking at the Fibre Channel elements. So we'll start to have a look into that and see how it works. Now, one of the cool things that Rich told me about was the bonjour element within Safari to go and discover your array. Not fully supported as I understand it, but certainly a very quick way to go and discover your array.
Yeah, it's the secret reason why a lot of the Nimble SEs use Macs internally.
So we're just going through it now. So Nick, tell us a little bit about the CS700 we've got here.
Yeah, so we can see here that we've got an array serial number, and we have a CS700, and the 700 is our top line of products. It's based on Intel 10-core Ivy Bridge CPUs. It's got a heck of a lot of RAM in it. And the big thing about the way that Nimble works is actually the performance of our systems doesn't actually come from back-end drives. And more importantly, it doesn't actually come from SSDs. The actual entire performance of the entire solution comes from those Intel CPUs. So the 3 unit that we have here is the same chassis. It's the same box. We just ship different controllers inside it. And that's what's called a 3 or a 5 or a 7. The 700 that we have here is filled with 1 terabyte drive. So we've got about 7.5 terabytes of usable capacity on that system. But the great thing about this system is it can do anywhere between 100 and 120,000 IOs per second. And that's using 12 nearline SAS drives, typically slow, dumb, high capacity drives, and 4 commodity grade MLC SSDs.
Fantastic. So I should be able to run a lot of VDI desktops or SQL workloads or something like that on the unit.
I'd hope so. I mean, I think within the 700, we've kind of got it earmarked for somewhere between 4 and 5,000 desktops that you could possibly run on that system. And the great thing is we're kind of delivering all flash performance without actually having to buy all flash, which is brilliant.
Fantastic. So what we've done so far is we've gone into the array, we've accepted the EULA, and we've also then gone through and told it that we're going to create a new group.
Yeah.
Talk us through the screen that we're seeing now.
So with the Nimble system, we have the ability to create what's called a scale-out cluster or a group. So we have the ability to actually take multiple arrays and actually have them under a single namespace, a single management screen, and then I can actually have volume striping across them. So it's true scale out. It's not actually kind of just linking arrays together, or only using certain controllers for certain things. So you can see here that we've got an array. So Fibre Channel UK, FC UK. The group name is FC UK-CW for Computerworld. We've got the array name, which is FC UK-CS700. What we have to do within the array is, when we first configure it, we have to give it a management IP. We have to give it a default gateway and everything else, and then we just have to give it a password. And that's it. And then we can just move on with the rest of the configuration. And that's why it's so easy to do it via Bonjour, because you just push the configuration to it, and then it then just picks up the IP address, and away you go. Dead simple.
Fantastic. So we're just waiting for that to process now, and we're just going to log back into the array now it's been configured with its IP address. So now I guess we've kind of got to start getting the Fibre Channel and the other elements of it configured, ready to handle our workloads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with the Nimble array, we've got the ability to create multiple subnets. So you can see here that we're actually creating a management subnet, which is by default the one that we created already. We're also going to create another one for replication. Because with Nimble, we replicate over IP. We don't replicate over Fibre Channel. So we want to create a separate replication network. And then we can associate the port that we're going to replicate over in a second.
And I believe we can replicate between a Fibre Channel and an iSCSI unit, and vice versa.
Which is why we do it over IP, because then it allows us a constant, constant bandwidth replication across whatever fabric we want to do it.
Fantastic.
So you can see here that we've just selected a couple of ports for that, and a couple of ports for management. You can also see when this is the first instance of Fibre Channel. So you can see this is the first points where you can see that we've got Fibre Channel links within the array. And these links are 8 gigs. So you can see that when you rolled your mouse over those, it shows up as 8 gigs. So we can actually show you the speed that they're running at as well. And you can see here that we've actually got 4 Fibre Channel ports in this array. So that means we've got 2 dual port HBAs per controller.
Fantastic.
And it's mirrored across two controllers, which is why you've got 2 ports on FC1 and 2 ports on FC2, for example.
So 16 gig cards in the back from a HBA perspective, but we can also support 8 gig.
And 4 gig as well.
Fantastic. So we've got true flexibility there. If people have already got an investment in Fibre Channel fabric, they could invest in the Nimble, integrate it into the existing fabric, and then update the fabric at a later date.
Absolutely. So we fully support Brocade switching. We fully support Cisco MDS switches on the Fibre Channel side as well. And then on the HBA side, it's the standard Emulexes, QLogic, and Cisco.
Fantastic. So we're now just going through the rest of the array setup now, configuring things like the domain name and the DNS servers that are going to be utilized, as well as the time and those elements. When we get through to the next screen, then we're going to start configuring the other elements like dial home support and things like that. So obviously Infosight is quite a big feature and functionality of the Nimble arrays.
Yeah, so you can see here that all we have to do is put in the IP addressing for the time zone and DNS, and that's all you have to do. When you get to this screen, which is the email alerts and support screen, you can see here that we're actually going to not configure email alerts, but you've got this box checked, which is send the event data to Nimble support. So that's throwing an error, so you can't do that. What you can also see here, what you can also see within the system is that we can actually now start heartbeating back home. We've got 30 million sensors on each array, and every 5 minutes those sensors roll into a bundle and they get heartbeated back to Nimble support. What happens here is that you don't actually have to configure anything else. All you have to do is check that box, and we will then start collating data for you. And there's no actual customer sensitive data, it's just ones and zeros about the product itself. As long as you open these ports here, so you need port 443 opened for external access to the array for the internet, and then you can, and then that will then go. An Infosight then gives you the ability to have real-time data analytics, but also it allows support to be proactive about the support and actually feature set around the array, so we can actually start spotting bugs on the system before it actually ever happens. And so because of that, we don't have an army of level 1 guys that sit reading scripts, for example.
Fantastic. So from a perspective of setting up the array, we're now done. That's complete. So that was kind of power on to full configuration in about 3 minutes there, with us going through a few things and clicking through it. Obviously, it doesn't get much easier than that in terms of kind of configuring an array.
This is it. So the whole idea behind Nimble was to be simple to use. Now we wanted to pass that intelligence into the Fibre Channel world. We can't make it harder to use Fibre Channel than it is iSCSI, because that's not the mantra of our company.
So we're now into the interface, and we can start kind of having a look at some of the elements where we can really see the Fibre Channel configuration, how we're going to understand the worldwide names and do the control lists and all those other elements. So we'll start by having a look at the array, I suppose.
Absolutely. So if we then click on the array name, which you can see here, that's then going to load up a real-time view of the actual arrays themselves. So you can see we've got 2 controllers. It runs active standby. We've got the ETH2 on the array, which is unplugged at the moment. So you can see here that the ETH2 is unplugged, and we're showing a red and an exclamation mark, and you can actually see it said link down. Now you can actually roll your mouse over those Fibre Channel ports, so you can see where they are, but also you can see the worldwide P name on the array. And you can see here that you've got a temperature warning. I think you didn't have aircon turned on.
Need to turn the aircon on.
Yeah. But what you can also see here within the system is that the array has already built its RAID set. So it's 10.92 terabytes of raw capacity after triple parity RAID, which is our proprietary RAID set, which allows us to withstand triple drive failure with no data loss. You can see we're getting 7.25 terabytes. And it's not actually terabytes, it's tebibytes, which is even more granular. It's not the marketing term, it's the real world data term, right? And you can see here that you've got roughly 2.9 tebibytes of SSDs as well over 4 drives. So in a hardware configuration aspect, that's all you do. You don't configure a RAID set, you don't configure tiers. This is it.
Fantastic. And obviously on top of that usable space, we're then going to get the benefits of the compression that Nimble adds. But generally when we're talking to customers, we tell them the usable space and then let them have the compression for a bit extra for snapshot space and all the other nice things that we can do with the Nimble array.
Yeah, I mean, it's really dangerous to try and size a solution assuming data reduction. So we do compression and pattern matching. So if you write a series of zeros, we'll throw them away. But if we were to sell this system here at let's say 7 terabytes, if we were to sell this system assuming 4 times compression at 30 terabytes, and a customer only gets 2 times, that's a real bad place to be. So that's not the way that we sell our technology.
Fantastic. So we're just clicking over some of the SSDs there. We can see the specifications. We're going to go and have a look at the initiator groups now, which is kind of the access control list inside the array.
So some people would term this as LUM masking in the Fibre Channel world, pretty much. It's kind of the same, or in iSCSI world, it's like iSCSI qualified names, pretty much. So you can see here that you've got WWPN, so they're the physical port names of each HBA. Now this is really cool. I really like this feature set. So if you then type in the start of the WWPN, we then actually return from the name server what actual names you've got on the name server, which respond to those fabric ports. So it makes zoning or LUM masking really easy because I don't actually have to go and actually find out what those HBA worldwide P names are from the actual fabric or from the host. All I have to do is just type in the start and it just returns all my values for me. It's simple.
Certainly makes your life a lot easier. It's very difficult to try and remember those worldwide port names, or you end up with an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. So that certainly makes it a lot easier.
SAN admins are used to that sort of work, and we want to try and get that work kind of cut down because it just makes life miserable for everyone.
Exactly. So we're now going to go and have a look at the monitoring and the interface monitoring. Normally we'd go and look at the iSCSI ports here to see how much data is flowing over them and response times and things like that. So we can see the Ethernet ports there that are being used for management on this array.
But you'll also see now that you can see Fibre Channel links.
Fantastic. So it's that kind of unified. If you've already been using a Nimble Storage, you're now putting a Fibre Channel one in a different site. It's all in the same place. It should all be easy to find and see what's going on.
And that's the point. The point is that for us, it's just a protocol. It's just an output. It doesn't actually make any difference whether it's Fibre or iSCSI internally.
So if we had some connections from host now, we would obviously see those. We'd see the initiators that were connected through. And we're now going to go and have a look at the network configuration.
Yeah, and this for me, this screen that we're going to see is gold dust, because this is what a lot of people really cry out for when they're doing professional services installs. Because here in one screen, I can see all of my Fibre Channel interfaces. I can see what controllers they're on, so A or B. I can see what the link status is. Is it up? Is it down? Is it faulty? But I can also see what speed they're running at and what my worldwide node names are and what my worldwide port names are. And if I was to even roll my mouse over that link status, I would actually query the name server and it would actually return for me what port on the Fibre Channel switch I'm actually plugged into and on what fabric I'm plugged into. So I can even trace route and understand exactly what port I'm actually plugged into on which switch for troubleshooting reasons. That, for me, is worth its weight in gold.
Fantastic. So it's really easy to manage. It's got that kind of nimble philosophy that it shouldn't be complex. It should be easy to manage. It should be obviously performant, as it always should be. So if people are already aware of what Nimble has to offer, it's just an extension into the Fibre Channel world, or those people that maybe haven't considered Nimble in the past because it isn't Fibre Channel, it opens up that whole new world to them.
Yeah, and the great thing from a Nimble side is there's no hidden agenda to push one technology over the other. It's all about choice. So if a customer wants to have one system over another, it actually doesn't make a difference on performance or throughput or IOPS. It's exactly the same. So now we've just got double the choice for all of our customer base.
Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much for your time, Nick. Thank you for watching this short video. Hopefully you found it useful. Please reach out to your Computerworld account manager if you'd like to speak to myself or Nick a bit further about the technology, or your relevant Nimble account manager elsewhere in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.